Well, I'm speaking to you from Kiev in Ukraine, and right now, actually in my bathroom, because there are drones over Kiev right now. So the air alert is on, and I'm sheltering here away from the windows. It's very normal these days. I unfortunately have to say, currently it's every night that Russia is sending drones to attack Kiev. So it's been 3 years of full-scale war, and the war continues, and so does the humanitarian crisis here in Ukraine. There are millions who are in need of humanitarian assistance, and millions who are displaced, who have been forced to flee their homes. Just last week, I was traveling in the southern part of Ukraine, in one of the regions where a large part of the region is under Russian occupation. And I met an older couple. They were both 75 years old, and they were explaining how they, in the beginning of the full-scale invasion, when the front line was very, very close to their village, had to shelter in the basement for weeks. And at the end, they felt like they really had to flee because they couldn't stay. And the way the woman, Vera, she was crying when she was just recalling how they had to leave their homes because, as she said, we didn't know if or when we were going to come back. So it was so traumatic for her to just relive that decision of leaving their home. They did come back because this area was then later retaken by Ukraine, and UNHCR has now helped them to repair their house that had been very damaged by the war. So this has really been a crisis on top of the crisis, because it is extremely cold in Ukraine during the winter, and with all those attacks on the energy infrastructure, we've seen hundreds of thousands of people with limited access to heating, electricity, and water. And it has been really a focus for us in UNHCR to make sure that we get this winter assistance out. So it's heaters, it's portable power stations, it's insulation kits, it's repairs of homes so that they can keep warm and people are able to stay in their homes. And then we are also distributing what we call cash assistance, so people getting a little money to help them cover their absolute most immediate needs, and also to pay for solid fuel or firewood if that is what they need to stay warm and stay safe during winter time. And again, when I was traveling just last week, meeting some of the people who have been helped for winter, what they say is, of course, that this small help they receive, this is what really allows them to manage throughout these cold months. But another thing they say, which is also one of those things that really makes an impression, is that they say this also shows that we are not forgotten. There are still people outside of Ukraine who remembers us and who thinks about us. And I think that's really such an important message. We've seen for the last 3 years an immense solidarity and support to Ukraine, also from donors in Australia. But it's a support that cannot stop now, because the needs are still immense here in Ukraine. Our focus is really on the people, and I think that is probably the message, that with everything happening, really to remember that it's the human toll and the human cost